One of the wealthiest people in Europe, Freddie Heineken, turned his family's brewery into a multi-billion-dollar powerhouse. He and his chauffeur were kidnapped by gunmen on November 9, 1983, in front of Heineken's Amsterdam offices, setting off a worldwide search for the missing tycoon, his captors, and the $11 million ransom. For the detailed story about Heineken's kidnapping, stay tuned and watch the video till the end. For more interesting videos like this, subscribe to our channel Business Owl. And also don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified whenever new videos are posted. One of the wealthiest persons in the Netherlands and head of the board of directors of Heineken International, Freddie Heineken, along with his driver, Ab Doderer, were abducted on November 9, 1983 in Amsterdam. On November 30th of that year, they were freed in exchange for 35 million Dutch guilders, $81 million in 2023 money. Cor van Hout, Willem Holleder, Jan Bollaert, Frans Meyer, and Martin Aerkamps were all ultimately captured and sentenced to jail. Van Hout and Holleder spent more than 3 years in France prior to being returned, first on the run, then in jail, then under house arrest while waiting for a shift in the extradition treaty, and ultimately back in prison. Meyer managed to get away and spent many years in Paraguay before being captured by Peter R. de Vries and jailed there. Meyer ceased fighting in his extradition to the Netherlands in 2003, and he was moved to a Dutch jail to finish out his sentence. The abductions, trials, and extraditions that followed attracted national interest and were extensively covered by the media. A number of publications and 2 films about the abduction have been produced. Later on, a few of the criminals rose to prominence in Dutch organized crime. Van Hout was imprisoned once more soon after his release, this time for a period of 4 years for his involvement in a narcotics importation network. A year after being released a second time and after 2 previous unsuccessful attempts to kill him, Van Hout was killed in Amstelveen on January 24, 2003. For 2 years, Cor van Hout, Willem Holleder, Frans Meyer, and Jan Bollaert had been planning the kidnapping. Later, Martin Aerkamps became involved. Freddie Heineken and his chauffeur Ab Doderer were the targets of several unsuccessful kidnapping attempts at Heineken's Noordwijk residence. Then, on November 9, 1983, at 1856, in front of Heineken's headquarters at the Wetteringplaatsen in Amsterdam, they were seized. They were held captive for 3 weeks in a Quonset hut owned by Bollaert's woodworking firm at the Westport Business Park, which is part of the Amsterdam harbor region. The hut had already been constructed with a double wall on one end, 2 soundproof chambers, and a secret entrance. This resulted in a 4-meter internal reduction in length for the 42-meter-long hut, which passed undetected. At the time, an $11 million ransom was given, which was the most ever paid for a kidnapping victim. The hostages were still alive when the kidnappers escaped before freeing them, but thanks to a lucky lead, the authorities were able to rescue them. Van Hout and Holleder were successful in getting away after the captives were released on November 30th. To Paris, they both escaped. However, on February 29, 1984, the French authorities detained the 2 guys. They resisted being extradited to the Netherlands and were initially put under house arrest in a motel on December 6, 1985. On February 13, 1986, they were moved to Guadeloupe, Saint-Barthélemy, the French portion of Saint Martin, Île-Tintamarre, and then back to Guadeloupe after a brief absence. On October 31, 1986, they were eventually returned to the Netherlands. Heineken's words set off an unprecedented operation as a company bearing his family's name planned to send one of the biggest ransom payments in history, which would have cost more than £200,000 and would have been equal to $30 million in today's money. The criminals, who had taken one of Europe's wealthiest and most well-known businessmen weeks earlier, were in the process of being caught as Dutch police prepared to make their arrest. Heineken could not have known at the time that a gang of 5 men had been watching his home, workplace, and everyday activities for months as they plotted a crime that would bring in a king's ransom. Cor van Hout, Willem Holleder, Frans Meyer, Jan Bollaert, and Martin Aerkamps, the men who were stalking the millionaire, had first met there when they were teens and young adults. Before we move on, for more interesting content like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel, Business Owl. Hit the bell icon to receive notifications whenever a new video is posted. In comparison to the contemporary Netherlands, which has closed jails as crime rates have reached record lows, the gritty Amsterdam of charismatic ringleader Van Hout's childhood is a stark contrast to the country's current state. Van Hout describes early success based on an actual construction business, scoring real estate deals by using strong-arm tactics on squatters, as well as other shady activities that led to run-ins with the law, in his account of the kidnapping published by Dutch journalist Peter R. de Vries. According to Van Hout, the men began looking for a large payday after their interests in expensive vehicles, racehorses, and partying were curtailed by the recession. However, former Dutch officers believe that Van Hout's real estate transactions and business ventures were merely an excuse for his gang's participation in a number of unsolved armed crimes. But Van Hout and the other guys started looking for targets in the social and business sections of the Dutch press. The men were already aware of Heineken, an advocate of Dutch commerce, for factors other than the fact that he was, in Van Hout's words, filthy rich. Van Hout recalled stealing peeks at the beer magnate's Mercedes-Benz as a youngster, and the father of his buddy Holleder worked at the brewery for a number of years before being fired for disruptive behavior. Van Hout recalled stumbling into the unprotected billionaire while running chores on the canal-lined streets of the Dutch capital. Amsterdam is a tiny city with a population that hardly exceeds 800,000 even today. At a New Year's Eve celebration, the men celebrated with Dom Perignon champagne and put their plan to capture the millionaire into action after deciding to go after the Beer King. Later, Van Hout would describe the meticulous planning that went into the abduction, including the gang's construction of an armory of handguns and Uzis, a fleet of 6 stolen vehicles, and a network of red herrings intended to confuse investigators. The abduction was only supposed to last 48 hours, but it ended up lasting 21 days. The millionaire and the chauffeur were robbed of their clothing and possessions and chained inside the cramped spaces, separated from each other and the outside world. Heineken subsequently claimed that he had dreaded being kidnapped by the infamous Red Army faction of West Germany, and that the cell's air pipe would break. Before demanding ransom, his kidnappers rejoiced and then resumed their regular activities to avoid arousing the suspicion of friends, family, or the authorities. Heineken's house in Noordwijk was the target of the kidnappers' demand that an unarmed police officer transport the money there in a marked vehicle, but this was impossible due to the press crowd encircling the location. When Dutch officers stormed the warehouse after the ransom had been paid, but before they found the hidden chambers, they were initially perplexed by the false wall. Before moving underground, the group had stolen the equivalent of $2.5 million, or about a quarter of the haul, from their hiding spot. After pedestrians discovered the hidden treasure, the police were able to reclaim the remaining ransom. In 2003, Van Hout emerged from a restaurant in Amsterdam to a barrage of gunfire. He was already a minor celebrity at the time of his death due to the abduction, his opulent lifestyle as the head of the Penno's, or Dutch organized crime, and his survival of 2 prior assassination attempts. That's all for today. If you liked this video, please give us a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to receive notifications. Also, express your valuable thoughts in the comments section below. Until then, bye!